So in the last video, we talked about what created your anxious attachment, how you learned as a child that love was conditional, that safety felt uncertain, that you had to perform to be worthy. Now we need to talk about what you're doing now as an actual adult that's keeping this wound alive. And this is going to sting a little bit because what I'm about to show you is how you're doing to yourself what was done to you. How you're abandoning yourself in the exact same way you were abandoned as a child. This is called self-abandonment. And it's the number one thing that's keeping you stuck in your anxious attachment. So let's talk about what it actually is, how you're doing it, and what it's costing you, and why it's costing you everything. Self-abandonment is when you disconnected from your needs, your truth, your desires, in order to keep someone else close. It's when you prioritize their comfort over your integrity. It's when you make yourself smaller so they feel bigger. It's when you silence what's real for you because you're terrified of what will happen if you speak it. Self-abandonment is the opposite of self-care. It's not, I'm putting myself first. It's, I'm erasing myself so they won't leave. And here's the thing, you learn to do this as a child. You had to abandon yourself to survive. If you express your needs and mum couldn't handle it, you learn to silence your need. If you took up too much space and dad withdrew, you learn to make yourself smaller. If you were authentic and got rejected, you learn to perform instead. Self-abandonment was your survival strategy. But now you're not a child anymore. You don't need to abandon yourself to survive. But your nervous system doesn't know that. So you keep doing it over and over in every relationship, in every friendship, at work, with family, with romantic partners. You abandon yourself before they can abandon you. And the tragic part, you're creating the exact thing you're trying to prevent. By abandoning yourself to keep them close. You're teaching them that you're not worth showing up for. You're teaching them that your needs don't matter. You're teaching them that they can take and take and take, and you'll just keep giving. And eventually they'll leave anyway. Or worse, they'll stay and you'll lose yourself completely. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in real life. Because self-abandonment isn't just one thing. It's 1,000 small moments when you choose them over you. Number one, silencing your needs. You need reassurance, you need consistency, you need them to show up. But you don't say it because that terrifies you. You're terrified that if you express your needs, they'll see you as too much and they'll leave. So you stay quiet. You tell yourself, oh, I'm being chill, I'm being low maintenance. But inside you're aching, you're anxious, you're checking your phone every 5 minutes, hoping that they texted. And that need doesn't go away just because you don't say it. It builds, it fosters, it turns into resentment. For example, your partner hasn't texted you back in 6 hours. You're spiraling. You're anxious. You want to reach out, but you don't because you don't want to seem needy. So you suffer in silence. You abandon your need for connection to avoid being perceived as too much. That is self-abandonment. Number two, overgiving to earn love. You give and give and give. You show up for them when they are struggling. You listen to their problems. You support them through everything. But when you need support, they're not there. Or they show up half-heartedly. And you tell yourself like, it's okay, they're busy, they're going through something. But it's not okay. Because you're teaching them that your needs are optional. Again, example here. Your friend only reaches out when they need something. They vent to you for hours, they trauma dump on you, drop everything on you. But when you're going through something, they're too busy and they didn't say anything. You didn't say anything. Because you're afraid that if I set a boundary, they'll leave. So you keep overgiving. You keep being the one who shows up. You keep hoping that if you just give enough, they'll finally reciprocate. But they don't, because you've taught them they don't have to. And that is self-abandonment. Number 3 here, people-pleasing instead of being authentic. You say yes when you mean no. You agree when you actually disagree. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You pretend to be interested in things you're not interested in, all because you're terrified that if you show up as your real self, they won't like you. So you become a version of yourself that you think they'll accept. And in the process, you lose touch with who you actually are. Let's use another example here. You're on a date. They suggest doing something. They're going to a restaurant you don't like, right? And you say, yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. Even though you hate that place, you don't like the food, because you don't want to be difficult. Or you're with your friends and they're doing something you don't want to do, but you do it anyway, because you don't want to be the one who ruins the vibe. You're really erasing yourself. You're performing. You're being who you think they want you to be instead of you actually are. That is self-abandonment. Also, staying in situations that hurt you. This one's big. You stay in relationships that are one-sided. You stay in friendships where you're the only one putting in the effort. You stay in jobs where you're undervalued and overworked. You stay with family members who disrespect you. Why? Because leaving feels scarier than staying. Because you're terrified of being alone. Because you'd rather have some connection, even if it hurts, than no connection at all. Example again, you're in a relationship where they are emotionally unavailable. They pull away, they're inconsistent, they don't meet your needs. But you stay because you keep hoping they'll change. You keep hoping that if you just love them enough, they'll finally show up. But they don't. And every day you stay, you're abandoning yourself. You're teaching yourself that your needs don't matter, that you're not worth more than this. That's self-abandonment. Another example here, number 5, making yourself smaller. You dim your light. You downplay your wins. You shrink your personality. You take up less space. Why? Because you're terrified of being too much. Again, as a child, you learned that when you were too excited, too emotional, too loud, people would withdraw. People withdrew. So you learn to make yourself smaller, to be less, to want less, to need less. For example, you get a promotion at work, but when you tell your partner, you downplay it. Oh, it's not a big deal, because you don't want to outshine them. You don't want them to feel threatened. Or you're at a party and you're naturally charismatic, funny, magnetic, but you hold back. You don't let yourself fully shine because you're afraid that if you take up too much space, people will reject you. You're making yourself smaller to make them comfortable. That's self-abandonment. Also, number 6, performing instead of just being. You're always on. You're always managing. Always trying to say the right things. Always trying to be the right amount available. Not too needy, not too distant, not too much, not too little. You can't just relax and be yourself, because being yourself feels dangerous. For example, you're texting someone you're dating and you're obsessing over every word. Should I send this? Did this sound too eager, too much? Should I wait to respond? You're performing. You're trying to control how they perceive you instead of just being authentic. Or you're having a conversation and you're not even present because you're in your head analyzing, strategizing, managing. Did I say the right thing? Do they still like me? Are they pulling away? So you're not being, you're performing, and it's exhausting. I know. And that, again, is self-abandonment. Also, seeking external validation to feel worthy. This is big for me on my journey. So you seek validation from the outside world to feel enough on the inside. You need people to tell you you're worthy, to approve of you, to like you, to praise you, to see you, because deep down, you don't believe you're enough just as you are. So you chase success, money, status, likes on social media, compliments, approval. You achieve, you produce, you perform. And for a moment when someone says, good job, or you're amazing, you feel it, that hit of validation, that temporary relief of, see, I am worthy, I am enough. Because external validation is like junk food for your soul. It gives you a quick hit, but it doesn't nourish you. And in the moment it's gone, you're hungry again, seeking the next hit, the next achievement, the next approval. For example, you're posting something on social media and you're checking constantly. How many likes? How many comments? And if it doesn't get the response you hoped for, you feel crushed because your worth is tied to their approval. It's being outsourced. So you work yourself to the bone really, really hard to get recognition at your job. To hear your boss say, great work. Not because you love the work, but because you need the validation to feel like you matter. Or you buy things you can't actually afford. Clothes, cars, status symbols. Because you think if you look successful, you'll look like you have it together. Then maybe you'll finally feel worthy. But here's the truth. Your inner child doesn't care about any of that. They don't care about the money, the fame, the achievements, the objects, the approval from strangers. What they want is your presence. They want you to see them. They want you to tell them that they are worthy. They want you to stop abandoning them in pursuit of external validation that will never, ever fill the void. Because no amount of external approval will ever make you feel worthy. Because if you don't believe you are worthy, you could have 1 million followers. You could be the most successful person in the room. You could have everyone telling you, you're amazing. And you'd still feel empty inside. Because the wound isn't healed by what's outside. It's healed by what you give yourself. Seeking external validation to feel enough, that's self-abandonment. You're looking for them to give you what only you can give. Let's talk about the fear underneath all of this. The fear that drives every single one of these self-abandonment patterns. The fear of being too much. You're terrified that if you show up fully, if you express your needs, if you take up space, if you're emotional, if you're authentic, they'll see you as too much and they'll leave. Where did this fear come from? Again, from your childhood, you were told you were too much. Maybe not in words, but in energy. When you express needs and mum couldn't handle it, the message was, your needs are too much. When you were emotional and dad shut down, the message was, your emotions are too much. When you took up space and got shut down, the message was, you are too much. So you learned to be less, to need less, to feel less, to be less. And now as an adult, that fear runs your life. You're constantly monitoring yourself. Am I being too much right now? And the answer is always yes. So you pull back. You silence yourself. You make yourself smaller. You abandon yourself. Now let's talk about the cost of self-abandonment. So what does all of this cost you? Everything. When you abandon yourself, you lose yourself. You lose touch with what you actually want, with what you actually need, what you actually feel, who you actually are. And you become a shell, a version of yourself designed to keep other people comfortable. But there's no you left inside. And here's the part that breaks my heart. Every time you abandon yourself, you teach your inner child that they're not worthy protecting. The child inside of you who was abandoned by your parents is watching you, waiting to see if you will show up, waiting to see if you will protect them, waiting to see if you will choose them. And every time you silence your needs, overgive, people please, stay in situations that hurt you, you're sending them a message. You're still not worth it. Your needs still don't matter. You're still too much. You're doing to yourself what was done to you. And that child inside, they're still waiting for someone to choose them. And that someone is you. Here's how the cycle works. Step 1, you abandon yourself. You silence your needs, you overgive, you people please. Step 2, you feel anxious because your needs aren't being met, because you're not being authentic, because you're disconnected from yourself. And step 3, you abandon yourself more to try to ease the anxiety, to try to control the outcome, to try to keep them close. And then before, the anxiety gets worse because self-abandonment doesn't create safety. It creates more anxiety. And round and round and round you go, abandoning yourself to feel less anxious, but creating more anxiety by abandoning yourself. It's a loop. The cycle never ends until you break it. So here's something I need you to really hear. Listen carefully. People are going to leave you anyway in your life. Not everyone, but some people. No matter what you do, no matter how much you perform, no matter how much you abandon yourself to keep them close. Some people are going to decide you're not for them, and they're going to leave. So here's the question. Would you rather people leave you for your true, authentic self? Or would you rather people leave you for the mask you've been wearing, for the version of yourself you created to keep them close? For the person you pretended to be because you were terrified they'd reject the real you. Because if they leave the real you, at least you know it wasn't a match. At least you can say, I showed up authentically, I didn't abandon myself, and they chose to leave. And you can move on with your integrity intact. But if they leave the fake you, the performing, people-pleasing, self-abandoning version, then you've lost twice. You've abandoned yourself to keep them close, and they left anyway. So you might as well show up as who you actually are. You might as well speak your truth, set your boundaries, express your needs, take up space, be too much for the people who can't handle you. Because the right people, the ones who are actually for you, they're not going to leave you for being authentic. They're going to stay because you're authentic. So stop abandoning yourself to keep people who are going to leave anyway. Start showing up as yourself, as you, and let the wrong people leave so the right people can find you and come in. So you can't heal by doing more of what created the wound. Self-abandonment is what created anxious attachment in the first place. You learn to abandon yourself as a child to stay safe. And now as an adult, you're still doing it. And it's keeping the wound alive. If you want to heal anxious attachment, you have to stop abandoning yourself. And you have to start choosing yourself, even when it's scary, even when it feels like they'll leave, even when it goes against everything your nervous system is screaming at you to do, or what's familiar. You have to learn to hold your ground, speak your needs, set boundaries, and walk away from situations that hurt you, to show up as your authentic self, to take up space, and stop performing and just be you. Stop seeking validation from the outside and start giving it to yourself internally. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop abandoning yourself, when you start showing up for you, your inner child finally gets what they've been waiting for their whole life. Someone who chooses them, someone who protects them, and someone who says, you matter, your needs matter, you're not too much, you're exactly right. And that's how you heal, not by understanding it, not by managing the anxiety, but by being the person you needed when you were 4 years old. This week, you're going to write a shadow letter to the parts of yourself that felt unloved, unworthy, too much. And I want you to really see how you've been abandoning yourself. Not to shame yourself, but to bring it into awareness, because you can't change what you can't see. You're also going to reflect on your relationship patterns, where you are abandoning yourself right now, in your relationships, with family, at work, and really see it clearly, feel it, and know that this is what we're here to heal. Self-abandonment kept you safe when you were a child, but it's destroying you now. So let's stop, let's choose you, and I'll see you in week 2.